Digitiert zu Angemon! Angemon Ultradigitation zu Magna Angemon!
守れ愛する人たくましい自分になれるさ壊せ弱気な君を崩せぶつかる壁を熱いこと武器になるから Believe in your heart For so long, for our time to come, we have waited for this new age of glory. We're not stoppable at all. We are following the call. We will gather for the revolution. We will stand up. We will rise now, we will stand united, we will stand together. Into the light, the march of salvation, we are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall, we all cause the kingdom to fall. Into the light, the march of salvation, we are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall, we all see the kingdom will fall. Like all storms, we will strike twice. It's not over in their eyes. We are heralds of the elemental forces. Walls will break like rotten trees. Stones are falling like their leaves. We force our way to the everlasting fortress. We will stand up, we will rise now, we will stand united, we will stand together. Into the light, the march of salvation, we are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall, we all cause the kingdom to fall. Into the light, the march of salvation, we are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall, we all see the kingdom will fall. the march of salvation. We are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall. We all cause the kingdom to fall into the light, the march of salvation. We are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall. We all see the kingdom will fall into the light, the march of salvation. We are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall. We all cause the kingdom to fall into the light, the march of salvation. We are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall. We all see the kingdom will fall into the light, the march of salvation. We are the ones, the lords of creation, heeding the call, break a hole in the wall. We all cause the kingdom to fall into the light, the march of salvation.
And now I warmly welcome you again to another personal assessment about the 7th figure release of this figure series. 07 Chou-Shinka-Tamashii-Series, Patamon, Holy Angemon or Digivolving-Spirits-Series, 07 Patamon, Magna Angemon. Since Chou-Shinka-Tamashii is the original Japanese name, I will continue to use it more often than our name, and that also applies to the Japanese name for Magna Angemon, which is known as Holy Angemon in Japan. Also here again, while judging this figure, I will going back to official statements and my personal prejudiced assumptions and statements that I made about in my update videos, which are made to every new announcement about this Chou-Shinka-Tamashii-Series promotion page. Bandai Tamashii Nations and the creators say themselves officially that they, with this figure series, they strive to be the ultimate transformable Digimon figure series for adult collectors. And because of this official statement, I will be very strict in my judgment here again. Well then, let's take a closer look at this great figure too. However, these statements are not so important here either, because here, let me say, you have only halfway an old comparable transformable figure in order to be able to judge the possible improvements by comparing the old to the new one. Anyway, from that point of view, no, here we are entering uncharted territory for the 5th time, as Bandai Tamashii themselves with this figure halfway did with the implementation and conception with the 7th figure, because there has never been a transformable figure of these two characters before, at least only halfway, because you will surely know that the old figure evolved from the Patamon to Angemon's form. Chou-Shinka-Tamashii-Series 07 Patamon Holy Angemon was released on the 22nd December 2018 in Japan, as of course the last figure of the series for the year 2018 so far. I also pre-ordered Patamon Holy Angemon from the Nippon Yasan shop, again by using the Trans-Logistic shipping service for Europe, because this figure was of course also sold there at a cheaper price than I had expected for our online shops and the elsewhere prices, and it was delivered to me relatively quickly after a reasonable waiting time. Bandai announced it with a suggested retail price of about circa $76 US. Surprisingly, it was also announced cheaper than Alphamon, and therefore it got the identical suggested retail price as Tendomon, Adler Kabuterimon and Gabumon Metal Garurumon got before. Surprising and rather cheap, because here I also expected a higher price for Patamon Holy Angemon because of the high price they suggested for Doraemon Alphamon, which in contrast could be created on the base of the injection molds of the Alphamon SH Figure Arts figure for most of the parts for Alphamon's form, and on the other hand I personally would consider the creation and implementation of Patamon Holy Angemon to be much more difficult in terms of engineering than in contrary Doraemon Alphamon for the reasons mentioned. And as I said in my update video about Patamon Holy Angemon, I thought that a lot more thoughts would have gone into the development of the figure, and noted that it must have been more difficult to create Patamon Holy Angemon. Because even for Patamon Holy Angemon there was no old figure version in this form as a direct template for the new one. Because you know that the old Chou-Shinka-Series figure digivolved from Patamon's Evo form only into Angemon's Evo form. Patamon Holy Angemon as the 07 was surprising anyway, because to my knowledge they had previously given absolutely no hints which characters they would release as the next in this Chou-Shinka-Tamashii-Series back then. You only had this "who is the next" image as the only hint where Patamon's form's figure silhouette is with the others on, but also Gilmon's, which at least they showed as full painted and finished prototype as Dukemon sometime before. Patamon Holy Angemon on the other hand, in no way so many, including myself, thought that the 07 could become Gilmon Dukemon, because in contrast both forms of these have already been shown, even if only Gilmon as this figure silhouette here in this image. But as I said in my Patamon Holy Angemon update video, I was very late with this, maybe so I had missed something at that time. The fact is, there was also a live stream from where these pictures came from, where they probably also officially announced it for the first time that the 07 will become Patamon Holy Angemon. In any case, I found the surprise to be a very positive one, so that they are releasing another figure of Adventure 01 they promised us from the beginning on, after the two rather more surprising figures Caramon Diablomon and Doraemon Alphamon. There were also these pictures from the new displays where you could see the figure in both Evo forms, which I already showed you in my update video. But my first reaction about both Evo forms of Patamon Holy Angemon was in my update video, because of the official update from Bandai Tamashii, and because I had never seen both in Evo form before. And if you can still remember my update video, my first reaction about the 7th release Patamon Holy Angemon was just simply wow! Because it was just kinda unbelievable how they had managed to implement both Evo forms so accurately and breathtakingly good. Excuse me please. I also said in my update that the CG rendered image already looked quite good and therefore came close to the real design, but also said that especially Holy Angemon's form could be implemented better than I expected, and therefore everything in regard of his wing design, how this turned out and looks, is now a lot better designed on Holy Angemon in comparison to the wing design of Angemon, which also leaves a lot to be desired now. But I will come back to this topic and the reasons for this later. Because I want to say something about Patamon's Evo form now at first. I would just like to know that I, as you may already guessed from the Evo scene, bought recently the old Chou-Shinka-Series Patamon Angemon figure, not at least to be able to realize an Evo scene for this video too at all. It is the original Japanese version, which is now almost 20 years old and was still factory sealed. Yes! And now that I finally have this old version too, I can also make comparisons for you about the implementation and nature of both forms between the old and new figure. You can also see the demonstration of the transformation of the old figure later in the video. Yes, but first we come now to the new Patamon. As I mentioned in my update video, it is very impressive at first, despite the fact that he looks so incredibly good as Holy Angemon. So when he is Patamon, does not have any significant kibble parts of Holy Angemon's form on his body, on the upper sections and on the sides, since you only have the slightly too wide jagged wing edges due to Holy Angemon's accurate wing design, and that this wing pair could be this reasonably sized and proportioned and also can have these wonderful feather details, I would again see this as an acceptable compromise. Because also the transformation system of the double-sided wings for Patamon and then dividing them to represent the upper wing pair, and with the other foldable half of Patamon's wings, the part of the curved inner wing pairs, with the help of the face and forehead parts of Patamon, was simply implemented ingeniously by Bandai Tamashii's designer team. That I had to take ahead now. Yes, and this set jagged wing edges of Patamon have the right yellow paint apps for both of Patamon's wing sides, despite the white feather details of Holy Angemon's form. What I would call incredibly well implemented, and as you can see, the old figure also has these jagged wing edges. By the way, the figure in Patamon's Evo form is almost 3 and 5 inches high, measured from the feet to the highest part of the body, without wings, which would be about circa 9 centimeters. The height varies with the wings, of course, it depends how you adjust the wings. The length measured from the tip of his mouth to the tip of his tail is about 5 and 1 inches, which would be about 13 centimeters. And the wingspan in fully extended form is about 11 and 6 inches, which would be about 29 centimeters. Compared to the old figure in Patamon's form, as you can see, it is also a quite bit bigger and bulkier than the old one. The next thing that is impressive is that the new Patamon, in contrast to its old figure in Patamon's form, is almost clean clothed too. What is even more striking when looking at the old figure, since this Patamon has larger gap between the wings, as well as the real transformation joints and slots are larger and more striking than they are in contrary on the new one. The underside is completely open, and the old Patamon reveals at these gaps already much of his next evolution form, Angemon there, which due to all these aspects does not make him appear as lively and natural as it is in contrary the case with the new one, because the new Patamon is clothed more cleanly all around, and with the general shaping of the parts, a more natural, more lively body shape could be achieved. The new one only has a few larger transformation joints on the sides, and directly from behind it also looks similar like the old one with the transformation joints. Everything is just a bit more decent sized, but behind and below the new one is still quite open, as it is with the old one too. I would even say that it is even more open at the back, and the body parts of Holy Angemon's form also sticking out far and clearly noticeable below there. The whole thing is also acceptable because it is a transformable figure. Otherwise, in Patamon's form you would not guess the transformation ability from the front, from above, and diagonally from the sides at all, which is very impressive if you compare this with its old Patamon form, where this is not the case at all, and on the contrary, the transformation ability is very obvious here. There is really a significant improvement on a large scale to recognize on the new compared to the old one. Another feature that seems very strange on the old Patamon is the position of the front and rear legs, which are attached too far to the middle of the body due to the different transformation system. On the new Patamon, the legs are positioned and attached on the right place, are better in size proportion to the rest of the body than it is in contrary on the old one, and the legs are even a bit poseable, which despite the general non-articulation, at least we have some in the legs, which makes the Patamon somewhat poseable. Those poseable legs helps the new Patamon to appear a little more lively than in contrary the old one seems. Further points to this are also the open molded mouth, which makes him look even cuter, and the in general better, lighter, more accurate color tones which they chosen count to this as well, which are more natural for Patamon. In contrast, the old one is much too dark, and this color design is also rather wrong in terms of the coloring of his original character design and his view colors. It is very often discussed by others that many do not like the eye design and the form of the new Patamon, and that it would not be accurate and wrong. To be honest, I haven't gotten behind it as this others mean, and I personally find it quite okay how they done it. However, how you want to see it? Well, compared to the old, the eyes of the new are a bit rounder, and as a result they are more compact than those of the old one, which are a bit more slimmer shaped and not quite as round, and are therefore more drawn upwards to the forehead. Now, that's the only things I can tell and see. And that the lower corner of the eye has this black border as a tip drawn outwards and inwards. On the new one, it is only drawn inwards and is missing to the outsides. But I think this is also missing due to the ability to transform, because the shell getting splitted right next to the section, which was not the case with the old one. Maybe that's the reason why that black border tips missing on the outsides. Despite this, in any case, at least the color detailing and the two different color tones of blue that they chosen for the eyes, and therefore the entire accurate color implementation of the eyes definitely leaves no room for criticism and no wishes unfulfilled, I think. As already mentioned, this applies to the entire paint job and the selected colors and color tones in general, though it must also be said that here for most of the coloring they use the molding colors of the plastic, which is not a negative thing. And since we are almost already at the articulation topic, and I already mentioned that the legs are poseable because the legs are attached to ball packs, which makes all four legs on each ball moveable in all directions until the body parts coming in the way. For the front legs, the ball packs are extra hinged, but this is more due to the ability to transform, so that the front legs can be folded up the inner shell parts. And then, as you can see, the wings are each on a ball pack hinge combination, which of course makes the wings very poseable in all directions, once on the ball for the entire wing structure, and then again on this hinge, which allows a large room for different poses with the wings there. Of course, these joints are also important for the transformation at the same time, and they are in order to be able to accurately adjust and position the wings and the various wing components for Holy Angemon's wings the right, accurate way. Yes, and that would have been it about the articulation of Patamon. It's not much our Patamon can offer due to his general body design. Based on many of these facts and Patamon's nature, I would again say that Patamon's form's looks did not have to be sacrificed for the better look for Holy Angemon's form's look. On the contrary, he looks very good and is very accurate to his original character design in the shape of the body and almost all around, since it is closed fairly clean, at least from above and from the front and diagonally from the sides, as it is not the case with the old one. That's why I would describe Patamon's form as absolutely perfect without any large kibble parts in the upper and front area for a fairly clean all-around view, also because of the hardly until really not noteworthy existing kibble parts. Especially on the outsides, I mean, where you have those on the wings and where you have the gap from below and those parts of his other Evo form hanging out far down there and also sticking out far to the back. Yes, I am aware of this. They might have been able to do it better with a few more shell parts for the lower open section to be able to close it there even better and maybe almost completely than it is in contrary on the old one. But you should see the compromise they made for Holy Angemon's form here. Otherwise, the already very striking lower shell parts on the feet would have had even more folded shell parts there from Patamon's form then. And despite the fact that the new one is even more open from the rear than the old one, if you ignore these sections, for the rest you can see a far more than 100% improvement over his old ego in Patamon's Evo form, as well as that of Tamashii. Often before mentioned Digi-evolution in the parts can be clearly seen here on the new Patamon compared to the old one. In this way, Tentomon can keep his status as the best figure in rookie form of the series that have been released until then. And despite Patamon's general body structure, if we are honest, is just a bit simple, and then it is in contrary with Tentomon. So let's leave it that way, and I would see Patamon as the second best rookie form after Tentomon in terms of the accurate look to the original character design and an almost clean and kibble-free all-around view, at least from the front, from above, from the sides, in compared to all the other rookie forms of these figures they released in these figures until that time. And with these words we are again at the topic transformation or digivolution. According to the instructions, the cute Patamon can be digivolved in roughly 17 transformation steps into his divine-looking perfect or ultimate form, the Holy Warrior Angel Digimon, Holy Angemon, or for us, Magna Angemon. The figure skips the one evolution form of Angemon and thus therefore a direct ultimate digivolve or Chou-Shinka from Patamon to Magna Angemon or Holy Angemon. So it goes as the second figure in the line, the wrong way of evolution of the figures they released so far, but this concept also works for this figure again and pays off in full in almost absolute perfection and the correct proportions. However, it must also be mentioned here that this does not pay off to such a large extent like it is with Tendemon Atlacaputerimon, and applies here not in order to be better able to implement it kinda better in Holy Angemon's form or Holy Angemon's form, since here a remake of the old Patamon Angemon figure and Angemon as evil result. I think with the new molding techniques nowadays the proportions could have looked just as good and pretty perfect as Holy Angemon's form does, even if it would be Angemon's form instead. But personally, I am very happy about that they made Holy Angemon here, because the result is simply impressive, because Holy Angemon has so many wonderful details, more to admire and to discover than Angemon would has, and the transformation from the rather inconspicuous Patamon simply makes it appear even more impressive, even if the figure goes the wrong way of evolution. I think you know what I want to say with it. As I already suspected in my update video about Patamon Holy Angemon, the transformation system of the new figure is actually very similar in the base to the transformation system of the old figure. I think that is very evident, and you will notice this even more better when you have seen the transformation of the old figure later on. Both are the epitome of the embodiment of shell formers. What Bandai Tamashii, however, did not want to reveal in their official promotion update at that time, for whatever reason, was that the Digivolving point not pictured with such a typical transformation image as it was in contrary the case with all the other figures before. Therefore, with the similarity to the old, at this point back then was only pure speculation on my part that the transformation system of the new could be similar to the old in basic terms, because it just seemed logical to me, and I am glad that my words were not wrong. This fact with the similarity in the transformation system of the new to the old figure is not bad either, and only shows once more that they cannot invent anything completely new, and accordingly there are no other implementation options to conceive it much differently. Of course, the transformation system of the new figure is much more complex and not as easy as it was with the old figure, since Holy Angemon has one wing per more than Angemon, as well as other typical details that naturally cause also additional transformation steps in the transformation from Patamon to Holy Angemon, which generally makes the transformation more demanding and somewhat more complicated. And I noticed this myself when I unpacked Holy Angemon, and I had to get behind it, like all these hinge joints on the back and the wing ports etc, and everything has to be adjusted and positioned in the way that Bandai Tamashii also intended it to be, and in order to get the best possible to achieve the perfect representation of Holy Angemon 2. Since the figure could not be packed in a fully transformed form as it should be then intended to be displayed, so you still have to convert and adjust a lot so that you can achieve the intended great end result. And to figure out this for the first few moments was not that easy, because as I said, there was still a lot to adjust and to position differently than the way he was packed. But back to that, if we assume the complete transformation from Patamon to Holy Angemon, the transformation is fun. It is a bit more complex, though it is actually just a shell former. In particular, the arrangement of these entire folding joints on the back for the correct positioning of the wings is not quite as easy as I said, and you should also be careful when you're splitting and unfolding the shell parts so as not to damage these wonderful molded on feather details on the shell edges. This also applies in particular more to the back transformation into Patamon's form, and I would also see this a little more difficult than transforming Patamon into Holy Angemon. As I said, it is a pure shell former, and Holy Angemon's entire body is there in full form already, only folded within the Patamon shell, so the whole thing is not so impressive in this sense, and everything is very similar like it was with the old figure. The biggest difference between the two figures actually are that here by the new one it is the body of Holy Angemon, and by the old figure it is Angemon's body. And you also just have to unfold the new figure and bring it into an upright standing position. It is all the more impressive, however, how to split Patamon's shell and how and in which way these different shell parts are getting unfolded to form the 4 wing pairs, and how Bandai Tamashii's designer team managed to be able to do this all so very well proportioned and pretty perfect and accurate to make it look like the original character design. This is simply insane good, and they have succeeded insanely well. The wings of Patamon are splitted lengthways. The upper side forms the upper elongated wing pair with the beautifully molded feather details seen from the front. The lower side of Patamon's wings you raise up further, and with the help of the hinges you form the curved shape for the curved upper wing pair. The part also has these beautifully molded feather details as seen from above, as you can see. And as I said, with the help of the curved splitted face and forehead shell parts of Patamon, you form the lower section of this curved wing pair. What you can achieve with these many transformation joints and this extension joint, which I would call as super designed. And for this part as well as good as it was possible, these nice feather details were molded on the insides of the lower sections. The upper side sections of Patamon's shell forming the 3rd wing pair with these beautifully molded feather details on the insides and the additional fold-out able wing details. The lower side sections of Patamon's shell are then getting transformed into the lowest pair of wings by turning and folding these parts. Thanks to the many transformation joints, they also managed to replicate this wing pair, which he has more folded around his body, also in a pretty perfect way, which is so characteristic for Holy Angemon. And as you can see, these parts on the outsides also have these beautiful molded feather details. These wings also hide from the outsides and pretty well the rear legs of Patamon's form, which now hanging upside down on the inner back sections of these parts. By the way, what I would see at the same time most of the true transformation here is this just mentioned transformation of these lower side parts into the wings, as well as the transformation of Patamon's wings into the 2 upper wing pairs, as well as the transformation of the face shell parts into the lower sections of the curved wing pair. What I might also include in this is the following. From the upper back, now splitted back sections of Patamon, they have also managed to form these large golden ribbons, which are so typical for Holy Angemon, in order to use these actual kibble parts of Patamon in an intelligent way for good effect to be able to represent these golden ribbons accurately proportioned to the rest so beautifully. It's just so breathtaking because it's all looking so good. When you're done with the transformation again, you get this absolutely great and gorgeous looking Holy Angemon, who left the true divine and awesome first impression from the first images of the official update. Also in regard that you can see only a few kibble ports on his body, and this is another impressive aspect and pretty much applies to both Evo forms, and it was just incredible how well they could manage to make look all this so pretty good, at least as far as you could judge this from the update pictures back then. But nothing has changed, and I would like to express my enthusiasm for Holy Angemon's form again here with my words from my update from back then. The first thing I said was that from the pictures and photo angles there weren't a lot of Patamon kibble ports recognizable in Holy Angemon's form, and the only thing you could see was or the shimmering through colors of Patamon's wings on the bottom side of the curved wing pair. Since I find that with this transformation technique to take one wing half of each face and forehead shell ports of Patamon to represent this curved wing pair in combination was more than very ingeniously solved. Therefore, there should be nothing to complain about. And since Patamon's wing coloring is just very slightly noticeable there and all discovered by the lower wing pair curves on each side for the most part, and this even works seeing the figure from behind and from above. And then of course, as the more noteworthy kibble, you have these lower shell ports of Patamon's form with the front legs on them at the back sections of the legs and boots of Holy Angemon. Back then I wrongly regarded it as solid shell ports, where I also suspected that a figure or a part of the body could be attached to it, because I thought back then that the whole thing had to be attached somewhere. In fact, it is not as I did it suspected, because firstly, they are not solid connected shell parts, and secondly, the body is not attached to those, only the front splitted apart undersides of Patamon's form, which are also individually attached to each leg, therefore these shell parts hanging on the feet, and thirdly, it is not the other way around that the legs are attached to these shell parts. These two lower parts of Patamon's shell, which as I said then form Patamon's lower front body section, are also the largest visible and most striking kibble parts of Patamon's form on Holy Angemon, because these parts of Patamon's shell were left over and there was nothing they could do with them but to provide them with these hinge joints to be able to fold them up and upwards behind his legs and boots, to be able to hide them there as good as it was possible when you see the figure from the front. Which I think is okay, after all it is a transformable figure, and without parts forming it was not possible to do it different. And even if these parts are hanging very obviously on Holy Angemon boots back there, he must have these parts for Patamon's form, otherwise if they weren't there they would have been designed, attached or folded to somewhere else sections and probably folded onto the wings at the back. And then the wings would have visible hinge joints on the front sections, and they probably wanted to avoid this for a better and cleaner look for the inner sections of the beautifully designed wings. On the old, these shell parts are not extra kibble but are directly molded onto the shell parts as additional parts, which At the same time on each side also forming Angemon's lower wing pair, which is why the wings also look more like the splitted Patamon shell ports and less like Angemon's accurately shaped wings. And it shows why they did it differently for the new one, in order to be better able to manage the more accurate wing shape, and that it looks less like the splitted Patamon shell ports and more wing-like. I think this compromise is understandable, and I think this is, by considering these facts, very acceptable. I also suspected in my update video back then that there could be a little more of Patamon's shell ports on the back, also due to Angewoman's design and Tailmon's shell on the upper sections on Angewoman. However, this assumption was also wrong, because this is not true, because the figure is actually not in a shell and you only have those bunch of transformation joints for those folding joints on the wings, which even for Patamon's back are molded out of orange colored plastic, and so those are not white like it is in contrary on the old one. That really pays off for the accurate body color change for Patamon and is just great, and that with the right orange coloring also applies to all of these transformation joints of Patamon's real body section. And otherwise you can really say that the rest of Patamon's shell ports could be used perfectly for good effect for the representation of the 4 wing pairs, thanks to these many hinge joints, and as I said in my update video, which is still now completely true. That the implementation achieves a much more natural and almost perfect effect as in contrary Angewoman's wing design, and Holy Angemon's accuracy to its original character design, and also in general the immense richness of molded details and the important features for Holy Angemon just leaves your mouth open with enthusiasm. Yes! So I said that, and I haven't changed my mind about it either, because it's just that way, and Holy Angemon just looks so great. And you can also accept the rear view of the wings, which are of course the unfolded shell ports of Patamon's form, and therefore of course have coloring and features for Patamon, as it was the case with the old figure too. And you can overlook this kibble too, because it simply was not possible differently without ports forming, and it was also imaginable from the beginning on that Holy Angemon's form would look something like this from behind. At least from the front it looks really good. A bit of kibble can also be seen on the large golden ribbons from the back view, because as I just mentioned, those ribbons are formed from the splitted Patamon upper back shell ports, so of course they have the orange coloring seen from behind, and on each side the molded splitted tail of Patamon, which I also see as a completely acceptable compromise. And as I said, it was implemented quite ingeniously to form these large golden ribbons out of these parts of Patamon, that they also can have an accurate size and the accurate proportions to the rest. On top of that, the lower fold-out able ribbon part, which is also most visible from the front view, is also painted so beautifully golden from behind. And as I said, I would have expected a little more shell kibble ports of Patamon's form on Holy Angemon's back, because apart from the mainly wrong coloring of the wings from behind, the other features of Patamon and the many transformation joints the rear view of Holy Angemon expect for these large shell ports on the boots is actually pretty clean if you compare this to Angemon's huge backpack, which looks more like the folded together Tailmon body and less like her accurate wing design. But more about that later. Yes, and Holy Angemon just looks great in that regard. And I wish to have an additional accurately shaped attachable wing port for him, as I would have liked for Angemon, does not exist for Holy Angemon here, because they did very well. All 4 wing pairs got very well proportioned to the rest, with the shell ports of Patamon in a unique way, and it just looks absolutely awesome. The figure in Holy Angemon's form measures about 7 and 2 inches from the feet to the top of the curved wing, which would be about 18 and 5 centimeters. The wingspan of the lower wing pair is about 8 and 2 inches, which would be about 21 centimeters, depends on the pose you give him, and the wingspan of the upper wing pair is even about 10 and 4 inches, which would be about 26 and 5 centimeters. And Bandai Tamashii's own enthusiasm for their latest work at that time also could be seen in their official text on the Digivolving point, which they had especially adapted for this figure, because they wrote quite a lot and special things for Patamon Holy Angemon. In this sense they wrote, to follow the nostalgia of evolution of Patamon, which was released under the old series and which could be transformed from Patamon form to Angemon's form. Holy Angemon, the 7th bullet, evolved from the Evo form of Angemon at that time in the anime. Holy Angemon is a completely new molded body. Holy Angemon is a design that has been further developed. That was the allusion to the design comparison of the old figure Patamon Angemon. It is possible to enjoy the pose when he flies, which can be represented with the movement of 8 beautiful wings, completion of the ultimate transformed figure, in which you can enjoy the part of the dynamic and divine Holy Angemon that you cannot imagine from the lovely Patamon. And there is no doubt that you can fully agree with these statements, as I already did in the update video, because Holy Angemon's form is simply super successful and looks great, and its sharp-edged look is more reminiscent of a full figure arts figure if you ignore the few kibble parts once again. And even if the figure is a pure shell former, you can hardly imagine this wonderfully designed and implemented Holy Angemon from Patamon's form. How they managed to implement the wings pretty much perfect with Patamon's shell ports is just top notch. The shell ports of Patamon have these beautiful molded feather details on the insides. As you can see on the lower wing pair, the feather details even molded far away out of the actual shell edges on some sections, and in such a great way that it is hardly noticeable from the front view that this are Patamon's shell ports at all, because the shape of the shell ports has also been adapted in order to achieve a more accurate wing shape for Holy Angemon, and that it still works perfectly for Patamon's form is great. And that's just really great when you compare it to the wing shape or the shape of the shell ports of the old one. Basically, everything has already been made and molded in a similar way on the old Angemon, But in short, of course, on the new one everything simply looks better and more filigree and is also on a higher level due to the latest molding techniques of today's. What also contributes to the better look of the new are these additional fold-out-able wing details on the sides, which helping this wing pair to look even more natural and more angel wing-like, and to remind less of Patamon's shell parts. This part on each side got even so specially beautifully curved shaped and is not just flat, which in this sense helps the just mentioned facts to look even more natural. Out of this, and in general also all the 4 Holy Angemon important typical features and details got breathtakingly well sculpted and molded, detailed and taken into account right down to the smallest, true to this original, true to his original character design, and got colored with the matching colors and color tones. So Holy Angemon got accordingly all the important paint apps. I think the pictures speak for themselves and will be able to deliver the richness of details of Holy Angemon to you very well. Now be it the beautiful golden ribbons that he has wrapped around his torso with these great paint apps for the Digimon symbols, or the zippers on his suit, right arm and fist, or the leather straps with the silver buckles on the fists, right arm and left leg, these golden wing shaped details on the right arm and leg, the paintwork and accurately proportioned shape of the boots with all these details, or the awesome design of the ring and the sword base with the nice wing details on the right wrist, or the sword blade itself, which has been molded from this beautifully fitting translucent purple colored plastic, which is also a good choice because it is more like a glowing energy sword. And the shoulder protector of the left arm is also made of translucent purple plastic, as it is the helmet with this nice silver rivet and wing details, or the sculpt and coloring of the whole face and its details, or this wonderful golden high quality painting of the large ribbons and with all those countless in detail molded features on them, or the wristband on the left arm, or the accurate double coloring of this upper torso in general, and so on and on. There are just so many beautiful details to admire and discover on Holy Angemon that have been reproduced on the figure, so true to the original character design. In short, the design is really how you would wish it to be, and of course, as you can see, everything is at that sharp-edged figure arts design level, as it is the quality of the paint job in general as well. What is particularly striking, that all body parts and details are very well proportioned to each other, so in general, and do not have to a somewhat regressed shape due to the ability to transform, as it is the case in comparison with Angewoman's high heels or with her foot shape. Here on Holy Angemon, everything is accurately proportioned sized to one another, as it would be on a full figure arts figure of him, as I personally think. The feet, or rather the foot part of his boots, are of a matching shape and size to the rest of his other body parts, which with this characteristic gives this awesome figure another impressive aspect. The only detail that could not be taken into account in full form due to the transforming ability is the length of his hair, like it is the case with Angewoman's hair, which is also too short on Holy Angemon, but the right length they hinted with the tight pigtail, and the ribbon they highlighted with a different color, which is very great. And the enthusiasm on the part of Bandai Tamashii also continued, because they officially wrote about the details, the series bundles the adherence to the molding of details in relation to the beautiful replica of the character design of Holy Angemon. The figure even expresses a fine feather mold in order to reproduce the hidden part. Through hopefully we engraved the emblem of the forehead of the head part to reproduce everything true to the original up to perfection. And I had already fully agreed to these statements in my update video, because they simply corresponded to the truth and still do this. This text also emphasized how well the original wing design and the reproduction of the feathers true to the character design could be reproduced. Despite the fact that the figure is transformable, the fact that they even engraved this hidden crest symbol of hope on his forehead, I found just great in my update video already, though it is barely visible under the helmet. The helmet can be folded back, and I guessed back then that it only had to be because of the transformation, but in fact it wasn't. And you didn't need this function at all for the transformation. They probably only actually installed this function so that this engraved crest symbol can be really admired even better. Is unbelievable but true, but they really put a lot of effort into it. What an amount of effort! That is what I would call attention to details. And the detailing of the face in general is really also nothing to sneeze at. In retrospect, I would have wished for such a function for Angemon's helmet, because who wouldn't have wanted to see Angemon's face? I am just joking. Since I have already explained the paintwork in detail on some points here, I next come to the joint structure and the articulation of Holy Angemon, where they put another brilliant performance with the figure. And if I shouldn't have mentioned it yet, the richness of paint apps on Holy Angemon is super impressive, by the way. Yes, it is. Yes, and Holy Angemon can surprise with its great posability, despite his entire wing structure and its transformation joints on the back. The head probably sits on a typical ball pack on the neck, just like the neck itself on the upper body could sit. You can see it, but it can be moved in all directions, but the movements are of course pretty limited through the pigtail and the golden ribbons. In any case, the neck can also be adjusted slightly to the front and back. The arms are connected by a double ball pack to the inner shoulder joint structure, which makes them movable in all directions on the inside of this ball. Secondly, on the actual shoulder ball joint, typical for figure arts figures, which in combination is also provided with such a typical hinge, which in combination with all these joints allows movements with the arms in all directions. The arms are also rotatable to the sides on the shoulder sections. On the shoulder ball joint, this is the bicep swivel, so to speak, which he does not have directly. For whatever reason, it was designed in such a way, so it was probably all more functional. But it also works that way without a direct bicep swivel. Then he has double elbow joints, which makes the arms fully bendable. He also has such a figure arts typical butterfly joint for the rear shoulder sections. The wrist of the right arm can be rotated on this beautiful ring, or respectively the ring itself is rotatable, to which also the sword structure is attached, which of course also rotates, including the sword itself with the ring there. The sword itself can also be turned back and forth at a connection, but this is more intended for the transformation. As well, this counts for those feather details which are also pose-able. The right fist is again on such a typical molded on ball pack, which makes the fist individually of the ring and sword structure extra rotatable, which is great for the perfect posing and adjustment. And of course, both fists are on that molded on balls are movable in all directions until parts getting in the way. The protector sits on the left shoulder on a molded on ball on the hinge joint, which also makes the protector slightly movable, which is great to be able to perfectly adjust the position of the protector to the respective arm pose, and is of course also movable due to the transformation. The torso is also provided with such a typical figure arts joint. You can't see it, but I suspect that it is similar to Angemon's construction, and that he also has a double ball pack there, which makes the torso very pose-able towards the back and front, pose-able and tilt-able to the sides. Theoretically, it should also be rotate-able, but this movement gets prevented by this whole joint structure on the back. In theory, he could do yoga with Angemon, as I said about her in her review video. The joint structure of the thigh leg construction is also similar to Angemon's, and as you can see, it could also be die casted. Excuse me please. Though you can somehow see this better here, that it could be die casted, but in any case the balls which connecting the thighs are made out of die cast. That makes the legs turn-able to the sides there, makes the legs spread-able a bit to the sides, actually very much, and quite a bit spread-able, and you can give him some super cool standing fighting poses, which is just great. In addition, you can even turn the legs far forward on the die-cast balls, so he can do the high kicks, and the legs can even be adjusted a bit backwards until all the parts on the back getting in the way. These die-cast balls are, unlike on Angemon, in such a kind of typical cutted open half ball joint, which looks more like the correctly molded upper leg part or the leg clothing of Holy Angemon, and its design got beautifully adapted to the design of the rest of the lower leg, and therefore forms the upper part of the thigh as a disguised joint. This part then connects the rest of the leg on each side with the lower part of the leg. There you have the additional thigh swivel at a connection, which makes the legs extra turn-able to the left and the right there. Then you have full double jointed knees, which makes them very bend-able far to the back and also slightly forwards, depending on the pose and until parts getting in the way. It is so pose-able because of the ability to transform as well. The foot part of the boots is connected to each leg, then on the upper section with a die-cast ball, with the lower section of the boots, which makes this pack and therefore the foot part adjustable and movable in all directions until parts getting in the way again. On the lower section there is a combination of an additional hinge joint for the foot section itself, which makes the foot section tilt-able to the left and right. And with the interaction of these joints, the foot position can be perfectly adapted to the ground, what is just super. And on the very inner top to the feet, there's even another joint. And even if you would not suspect that the figure can be perfectly balanced despite the immense heavy wing structure on the back, which of course pulls the figure very backwards. But as I said, if you use the entire joints of the legs and foot parts levelly, the figure is really well balanced, and you can give it some cool fighting poses, which is just great, because at first looks it seems more than it would be very back heavy and top heavy due to the wing structure on the back, and you therefore could think that it's pretty unable to stand on its own at all without the support of Tamashii stands or leaning the figure on something. I felt that at first too, but through the photo shooting with Holy Angemon I noticed that this isn't true at all, and thanks to the many joints you can balance him super well, even in cool fighting poses. And Holy Angemon actually does it better than Alphamon, which fact may seem unbelievable, but it is actually true. And that's why Holy Angemon gets the full amount of plus points from me in this regard too. Of course, this also applies to his wing purse, which thanks to these countless transformation joints also makes them very well poseable and adjustable, and you can adjust the wings the way you like it the best. For the flight poses mentioned, this adapter is also included in the package to be able to display Holy Angemon in floating poses under support of Tamashii stages. And that works really well. It is a bit of fiddling work to get attached the adapter to the intended section, but once you have done it, nothing stands in the way for wonderful flying poses with Holy Angemon. So I find this adapter and the fact that it is included with the figure very ingenious and nice. As you can see, you can also adjust the wing purr that he actually wrapped around his body, also in an extended spreaded form. I think that's a great additional option just to be able to create a few more cool floating poses with him. Let's get into the diecast as well as to the clear parts on Holy Angemon. And Bandai Tamashii official statement about this was something like this. In addition to the whole chest and waist belt, they used diecast for the foot parts and for the lower part of the right arm sword, and they used translucent parts for the helmet, shoulder protector and the sword blade to express a beautiful silhouette. In addition that the whole upper body is made of diecast, I already said in my update video that the whole upper torso should not completely made from diecast, because it is rather not matching for the section, because it actually looks rather like a leather suit than a real armor. And that it would have been enough to make the two chest armor blades out of diecast, but it was probably easier the other way around. And yes, it is not as bad now, and it is probably more because in order to getting a better balance for the figure, because of the immense weight of the whole wing structure and joints on the back, so that the center of gravity is shifted more towards the middle body section, which clearly helps the figure to be better balanced. I could very well imagine that otherwise it would not be so well balanced and would be very back and top heavy. This is a problem especially with some of the larger Digimon figure arts figures, such as with figure arts Imperial Dramon, Fighter Mode and his Paladin Mode repaint figure. Due to the high weight of the wings at the back, these are, due to zero diecast parts, very poorly balanced, because there is too little weight in the middle, legs and feet, which makes them very back and top heavy. So I don't want to complain about Holy Angemon's full diecasted torso anymore, and would give in retrospect Tamashii a big thumbs up for doing it this way. Back then I also thought that it would be fitting and that it could be that the entire boots would be made from diecast, because I noted that they're really looking like heavy knight's boots, and thought that this would have made more sense than molding the entire upper body from diecast, but we already discussed this topic. As I said, only the foot part of the knight boots is made of diecast, which of course also helps for better balancing, and that the larger upper part of the boot is not die-casted is, at least in terms of right coloring, not noticeable, because the colors of the upper and lower parts got very nicely adjusted to each other. I also suspected back then that when the sword base is made from die-cast, then the ring on the right wrist could also be die-casted. Fun fact, they didn't mention it, but because of Angemon's die-casted holy ring, I suspected this, and people, behold, I was luckily right again here with this assumption, and of course this beautiful ring is also made from die-cast. About the waist belt, I'm not sure if this entire belt is die-casted or only the belt buckle of it. To me it feels like only the belt buckle would be die-casted and not the whole waist belt, but well. And of course, die-cast for the golden sword base fits absolutely great. So they made some thoughts about the design, and I think they made a great choice when it comes to the die-cast parts. I am very glad that they did even molded the sword blade out of translucent purple plastic instead of using metal for this, and took the effort to use translucent purple colored plastics for the sword blade, because it looks so great and fits its original character design so well. I also said that the translucent parts are there, or where they belong, should be, and you would wish to be those parts molded of translucent plastic. There's just nothing more to add to that, I think, and shows Bandai Tamashii's often before mentioned sense for finish with a high quality very well, especially on Holy Angemon once again. Now let's go back to the question of what if they had considered other concepts for this new figure. First of it all, what if they did a remake of the old Patamon Angemon figure instead of Patamon Holy Angemon? I already briefly mentioned that a remake with the 2 days latest molding techniques would have looked just as good even if it had been Patamon to Angemon. However, one thing has to be considered, that they actually had an advantage again, and that they could use this as well with taking the concept of the wrong way of evolution. They gone for this figure again because they could perfectly represent Holy Angemon's components and the further wing purr with Patamon's shell parts, which Angemon would not have. Because they could use split and design almost all of the shell parts of Patamon, so that the design of the individual components of Holy Angemon works perfectly with Holy Angemon. Though Holy Angemon's body details and character design was certainly more complex to reproduce than it might have been with Angemon's. Nevertheless, they had an advantage, that Holy Angemon generally has more parts which had to be formed than Angemon in comparison would had, and that it is Holy Angemon instead of Angemon. And because of his additional components, more of Patamon's shell parts could be used for them to be able to implement it this way In comparison, Angemon would have had lesser parts, and so I could very well imagine that the new Angemon figure would still have more Patamon shell kibble for this reason. Logical, or isn't it? It's maybe a bit difficult to explain, and I hope you can follow me, but let me explain it with a simple formula. Holy Angemon has more parts which had to be formed, which could be perfectly implemented with Patamon's shell parts, means less remaining Patamon shell parts kibble on Holy Angemon's form. Compared, Angemon would have lesser parts which had to be formed, so much more Patamon shell parts kibble left, means more Patamon shell kibble on Angemon's form. The bottom line, Holy Angemon's form could be implemented better with less of Patamon's shell kibble parts remaining. As a result, they took advantage of the better implementation for Holy Angemon's form, which I think is completely okay with such a beautiful end result. Excuse me. So that would be ticked off too, but what if they had considered Angemon to Holy Angemon as a concept? Well, if you know it, Bandai of America also made this Digivolving Magnamon figure that can be digivolved from Magnamon's form to Seraphimon's form. There was also an Asia version of it with more paint apps. Due to the implementation and transformation technique, this figure is half Magnamon, and the other half of the body represents all components and features of Seraphimon. It even has separate arms for each form, which of course then hanging down on the respective other form as kibble of the other form. And with transformation steps you can with each half of the body of the figure represent an evolution of each of the two possibilities. A Digivolving-Spirits concept for a new Angemon Holy Angemon figure would have looked and designed similarly. The two halves of the body and their respective components would of course have these typical figure arts sharper molded shapes and proportions today, and as well it would be possible with the overall molds or mold. But still, generally speaking, such a concept would not have looked any better in any form, and this counts for both forms, as in contrary the figure that they actually produced looks, as you can very well imagine. Because the new figure can be a shell former through Patamon's form. Patamon's form looks very good, and because of this, Holy Angemon's body can already be folded inside within full form, insanely well proportioned. So this concept is simply a lot better and has a very positive effect on the fairly accurate, well proportioned look in both forms, and therefore it was and is the best way how they made it. As promised, a few words about why Holy Angemon's original character design, especially his wings, could be reproduced so well as it was in contrary not possible with Angemon's wings, because compared to that, the wing design of Holy Angemon looks pretty perfect and well proportioned. I already said that in my update video about Holy Angemon. The reason why they were able to do it so well and perfectly for Holy Angemon and the difference to Angemon is just Patamon's simpler body shape or simple physique in general, because Patamon's rather elongated, cylindrical body shape and the resulting more elongated shell parts through this logical and obviously offer more space for this almost perfectly accurate representation and implementation for Holy Angemon's wings. On the contrary, Angemon has to transform from an upright standing Tamon with a rather humanoid body, which also has more body parts than Patamon. Well, they had to think about something else to be able to form the wings from Tamon's shell parts, at least as much as it was possible. So simply in this regard, nothing else was possible to be able to it better, and it is okay in this context. Like I said about Angemon in her review video. Just imagine Angemon would digivolve from Patamon, then Patamon's shell parts could have been used just as well for kinda better accurate implementation for the 4 wing pairs of Angemon, and the wings would have looked just kinda nearly perfectly impressive like Holy Angemon wings does. However, the problem is that Angemon has to digivolve from Tamon's form, and therefore only 3 wing pairs can be formed from Tamon's parts, and that 1 wing pair is completely missing as an important feature for Angemon. Perhaps it would have been better to reproduce Tamon's form in a more animal-like posture for the figure, similar to what you can see with Gomamon's CG planning picture here. Then Tamon's shape might have looked crappy, but the actual implementation of Tamon's shape is not so perfect either, and Angemon's arms hanging out on the sides. I mean, that with the other body shape might have been worth considering, and then a more elongated Tamon body shape would have resulted more elongated shell parts similar to Patamon, which perhaps would have made it possible for Angemon's form to have a better representation with all 4 wing pairs, and maybe so it would have been just as good as they could do it with Holy Angemon. Then the actually implemented figure does with these possibilities with Tamon's body shape and Angemon's form. Because of these lesser good implementation options, I would also wished for an additional clip-on option part with the accurately shaped wings for Angemon, because the backpack is anyway completely removable, and they done parts forming just for showing that the figure looks so great from behind without a backpack. I don't understand it. So that should have been it on these topics. I will save an extra detailed conclusion about Patamon Holy Angemon for this time, because I think I have said everything on the whole detailed before, just so much that I think that especially this beautiful Patamon Holy Angemon figure should not be missing in any collection. That's why there is an urgent buy recommendation for you from me, because this figure looks insanely and incredibly good, especially in Holy Angemon's form, and understands to inspire in this form. And he comes pretty close to a figure arts figure that we never got of Holy Angemon from Bandai Tamashii Nations, because to become one on Holy Angemon is not very much missing, and still less than it is with Angemon in my opinion. And I like to 100% how this figure turned out. I actually didn't find anything noteworthy to complain about here. Well, maybe the remaining shell parts on the feet could have been designed a bit more foldable, but that's actually it. For various reasons, Holy Angemon's form is actually the second best figure of the higher evolution forms for me personally of the so far released figures of this series, after Adler Kabuterimon. Even Diablomon becomes now number 3 due to the almost all-around perfection of Holy Angemon and all his accurate proportions in general, and yet the rather decent color kibble seen from behind. So as always, we come as final step to the box again. On this box, of course, we have the cool illustrations of Patamon and Holy Angemon by Watanabe. The box is again matte. This time this box is mainly matte dark yellow or gold. Only the illustrations of Patamon and Holy Angemon are printed shiny again. Otherwise you have the diecast evolution logo in shiny chrome silver on the left top again. Then you have the figure series name in glossy white on a matte grey background. Digivolving-Spirits, including a little larger in Japanese the Japanese name, Chou-Shinka-Tamashii, Digimon Adventure, Patamon, Holy Angemon 07 for the 7th release. Below those very small Japanese writings, which has been translated into English again, which says designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan. Below is still Bandai Spirits 2018 made in China. To the right, illustrated by Kenji Watanabe. And in the lower right corner the Digimon Adventure logo, including the Digimon Adventure's 20th anniversary logo for the first time, including the Bandai and Tamashii Nations logos below, where the Bandai logo has the special white and blue coloring again. On the left we have this additionally shimmering hologram seal sticker from Tamashii Nations, which shows Tamashii Nations quality. The lid is, as you can see, only matte dark yellow or gold, and white glossy printed in the middle again in a similar form as before, and always the title of the figure series. And left and right of it in a bright yellow to beige glossy printed the silhouettes of the figures of Patamon and Holy Angemon. The left side, as you can see, shows a product image of Patamon's form, and above it the glossy white title, which is again surrounded by the 8 crest symbols of Adventure 01. On the right side we have a product image of Holy Angemon's form below the same white printed title without the crest symbols. The matte back shows as usual the great promotion image from the side with all kinds of inscriptions and explanations in Japanese, which I cannot read. The diecast parts as well as the clear parts are advertised as usual. At the left top again the title, this time printed in shiny dark yellow or gold, Digimon Adventure 07, Patamon, Holy Angemon. On the right opposite again in a similar color, Digivolving-Spirits, Chou-Shinka-Tamashii, and below the printed diecast evolution logo. To the left of Holy Angemon again, as usual, the parts from the promotion text in Japanese and in English, a few English warnings on the left below. And on the right opposite the promotion image, again shiny printed for the next figure release. Next lineup: Special 08 Digimon Adventure 02 Black Agumon Black Wargreymon, with the corresponding cool promotion image for both. On the bottom side the warnings and notes again in Japanese, and here again partly with English notes with the informations about Bandai Spirits and the support address. The printed Toei seal, and on the right again in dark yellow or glossy gold the name of the series. As usual, this title this little anecdote is hidden on the lid flap. I had following translated by my good female WhatsApp friend again, who actually knows to read Japanese very well, so there is something different than usual written, and they also took care this time, and this time they just printed Holy Angemon's attack technique there, because this time it says Heaven's Gate! On the left side flap with Holy Angemon and the crest symbol of hope. It says again as much as you should cut out the crest symbol because of this campaign, where proof of purchase of the figure is required, and the cut out crest symbol is then the proof of purchase. On the right side flap this time the cute Patamon asks us to fill out the survey, including the Tamashii web logo and the web address. And now I think I have said everything I could think about this figure and what was to be said about. I think it was enough. As always, I would like to thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to present you the 8th release of this figure series in the next video, and of course I will dedicate this video to Chou-Shinka-Tamashii-Series Tamashii web exclusive 08 Black Angemon Black Wargreymon, or Digivolving-Spirits-Series 08 Black Angemon Black Wargreymon. If you like this video again, I would be happy for a thumbs up from you, and I would also appreciate much if you subscribe to my channel. It's still free. Goodbye, and until the next review video, your Mega 88 1000.
days I have been lost in what they told me to believe, until I felt it burning deep inside to set my spirit free. And I escaped to another world to help the little men who make me plunge into philosophy, to feel my mind again. And no one left to hold me tight on the real other side but her in chains. I had been alone till the madman came along with the knowledge and the silver long beard. He was the first man ever teaching how I could be